Last year, I tried to start a company that offers digital labels as a service for farmers market vendors. This is the story of why that failed, what I learned from it, and how I'm going to approach my next business idea differently. I'm Alex, a data engineer and author of the Applied Data Science Workshop. I think you'll find this video helpful because in the same way that I learned from my failures, hopefully you can learn as well. I'll start with some background about why I wanted to create a digital label product for farmers market vendors. I'm going to show you what the product actually looked like, and I'll talk about some of the efforts that I made to go and sell it, including my CRM tracker and some emails that I sent to potential customers. Then I'll distill my experience into a few lessons that I think you'll find extremely valuable and talk about some key takeaways from this whole experience for me. It started about 5 years ago when I watched the film Dominion. Watching this movie dramatically changed the course of my life. I became more of a plant-based person, and at some point I was completely vegan. I became incredibly angry with mainstream culture of eating meat, and specifically factory farming. So I decided I wanted to create something that would help reduce animal suffering. And this could be my contribution to society. I think this anger really created a passion in me that allowed me to work really hard and create something I was proud of because I thought it would bring value to society and actually could make a difference. The problem I stumbled onto was that it was really hard to find out information at farmers markets about where the products were sourced from. You'd have to engage in this kind of awkward conversation with the person on the other side of the counter and ask things like, how are your animals raised? What do you feed them? Do they spend time outside on pastures? And this could be really awkward when the answers were no. And it wasn't something that me as the consumer felt motivated to go ask them. It made me just not want to buy anything. I still like the trajectory of my thinking along this project because here I'm scratching my own itch. It's a problem that I'm experiencing, and now I'm going to create a solution to solve that. The solution I came up with was a digital label product, exactly like you see here. I could have a little card that I would sell to farmers market vendors and has a QR code on it. So they can put this on the table, and then me as the consumer can walk up, scan that QR code, and get all the information that I wanted to ask them. I came up with this idea all the way back in the winter of 2021, and I became totally obsessed with building this. I became incredibly detail-oriented, and I wanted my product to be exactly how I envisioned it. Because of this, I had to spend a lot of time on small details that probably weren't that important. So that slowed me down a lot, and that was my first problem. The second problem I had was that I kept adding features. I had no hard scope for what my minimum viable product would look like, and I kept thinking of cool ideas and convincing myself that if I built those into the product, it would make it more convincing for vendors to want it, and it would sell better. Here you can see all of the source code on GitHub for this business. Back in 2021, I started writing code, and the last commit that I made was back in August of 2023. One of the things I built was a landing page to try and sell my product. Here's what it looks like. I'm happy with how this turned out, but you can see just how much work I put into this and how far I took this idea. I thought really hard about my value proposition, and I wanted to show that in a compelling way on this webpage. I wanted to be really clear about how exactly the process would work and what you would get if you signed up for this product. And I also put the price in here along with some other information. So now I'll show you the product itself. I would set up a page like this for you. There would be pictures of your ranch, and then if you scroll down, users would be able to sort of save your products that they like. We can have little buttons to read more information. I've got you plotted on a map. I can talk about what certifications you might have as a farm, and then down at the bottom, we have all of the products that you would carry. And you can go ahead and click on these as a user and go to those products, which have their own pages. And on every page, I would have these little buy online buttons, which is kind of the link between my domain, coius.eco, and the vendor's website. All of this took a lot of work. I made this with Vue.js, which I love, by the way. But here's just an example of the user's store. So you can see all of these functions that I had to write in order to manage the user object that I built into the app. I also have a session level store with things like routing. Here I have all of my views. I have this idea of a digital label view. I have a home view. There's a profile view. And all of these views have components. So my digital label has a nutrition card, an origin card, a product card, a supply chain card, and then profiles also have things to deal with. On top of this, I built utility scripts so that everything was completely automated. Here's a script that renders card print assets. That's these things here. Here's a script that converts PDFs to JPEGs. Here's a script that uploads data to the web app. Here's a script that updates the web label when I change the images. When I finally started talking to customers, I didn't get that far. Here's what my CRM tracker looked like. You can see a bunch of company names that I did some research on to reach out to, and I wrote down what farmers markets that they go to in the GTA around Toronto, whether or not I visited them, and I won't scroll over, but to the right here, I have individual contact information that I was able to find for people at these farms. I'll show some examples of emails that I sent when I tried to start selling this. Here's a message I sent to farm using the contact form on their website. Hey, I love your site. These drone shots of your farm are amazing. They show me what a great life your cows have. I said, I'm a software developer and sustainable food enthusiast here in Toronto. My mission is to build tools that can benefit farmers like yourself. I wanted to show vendors that I'm not just some guy somewhere. I'm really here and I am interacting with their exact product. Finally, I had my call to action and I said, at this stage, I'm setting up free farm card demos for farmers. And all I said was that I'd like to share some more information if you're interested. These guys ended up coming back and just saying they'll have to pass. They don't have any time. And even though it's free, they know that it won't be free forever. So I'm asking them to invest time in something that will eventually also cost them money. It wasn't compelling enough for them. Here's another email I sent. It's been hard to keep up this part of the season, and this project will probably have to be something for the winter. He was one of the only people who gave me a positive response, although it did take a month for him to reply. If I had been better at trying to sell this, I would have followed up much sooner than that. And I'll show one more example. This was from at the Guelph Farmers Market. I sent a similar email to. She got back to me and said she wanted to see more about what it looked like. And so I sent her my follow-up email. This was the email where I would tell vendors more information about the product and try and get them to actually commit to taking the next step. I thought every vendor would want to at least see this step since I'm offering something for free and I haven't even shared a link of what it looks like. I thought they'd be curious enough to want to check that out, but was the only vendor other than who asked for more information. I'd love to hear about your projects and specifically a project you've done that didn't go as planned, because it's in those mistakes that we can learn the most. Now let's talk about the 4 lessons that I learned from this. The first lesson is to set a scope and a deadline for everything you do in your business. Projects will grow to fit the time allotted. Like Greg McKeown says in his book Essentialism, gases expand to fill the space they're in. Same too with projects and commitments to the time allotted them. Poorly engineered scope is a recipe for over-engineering, which is exactly what I did when I created this product. Here's a quote from the Techstars book, Do More Faster. A release date has to have a date and a time. In fact, it's important to be specific about everything that you commit to doing. Lesson number 2, identify the bottleneck. A good analogy is to that of the slowest hiker. If you have a group of people hiking together inevitably you're only going to go as fast as the slowest person in your party. What is the thing that's slowing you down? It might not be obvious. For example, maybe I thought what was slowing me down was that I wasn't getting up early enough to put enough time into building my product before I went to my day job. Or maybe I wasn't staying up late enough to hack hard into the night on building the features I wanted. But both of these were false. The real slowest hiker that I had was that I wasn't talking to customers. I wasn't putting myself out there in the real world. So even though I thought I was making progress by putting all this time into learning these technologies and building this software, I wasn't actually making any progress. Basically, I was avoiding doing the hard thing, which was actually trying to sell what I was building. Talk is easy. Writing business plans is easy. Chatting about your business idea with friends at a party is easy. All of these things I was doing a lot of. Taking action, starting, doing is hard. When you do something, you have to pick up the phone. You have to talk to a potential customer, launch a prototype, or send out the first brochure. And when you do this, you'll learn infinitely more than just thinking about it or doing it in the abstract. This leads me into my lesson number 3. Talk to customers. Before I even started building this thing, I should have been talking to customers. Way back in the summer of 2021, I should have been biking to farmers markets and talking to the vendors and asking them if this is something they want. I could have quickly mocked something like this up, printed it off, and brought it in with me. In addition to getting out there and presenting your ideas to customers, you can ask customers what they're having problems with, and possibly get even better product ideas than what you thought of. The goal here is to create a product that will provide 10 times the value that you're asking from it. So if you want to charge your customers $10 a month, how can you provide $100 worth of value from that thing? I think this 10x value proposition is really important because at this phase, you have very little or no credibility. So your customers are taking a big chance on you. They're taking a chance that your product works like you say it will. They're also taking a chance that your product will even be around a few months or a year from now. Think about it from their perspective. Either your product requires some financial investment from them upfront. This is especially true if your product incurs a lot of overhead on your side or if you have no funding. And as was the case for me, if your product requires a lot of time investment from your customer to set up, why should they bother spending their time on setting up some product that might not even be around a year from now? So in my mind, I was saying, hey, here's a free thing that I've built. Try it out. I hope it works well for you. If it does, I'm sure you'll be happy to pay me to keep using it. But in their mind, they're saying, oh, here's something I don't think I really need, and I'm not sure it'll help me, but I know that it'll cost a lot of my time, and eventually it'll start costing me also money. Another thing to keep in mind is who you're selling to. I was selling to farmers market vendors who didn't have a lot of extra capital to spend on things that they don't absolutely need. So lastly, lesson number 4 is know your strengths as a startup. You can move fast. You're not burdened by all of the overhead that a larger company has in trying to build product, put things to market, create new features. You can do that instantly. All you have to do is get off your ass and write. If a startup can't do more faster, it usually just gets dead faster. You can test out lots of ideas quickly, specifically ideas from your customers. Also, as a startup, you don't need to worry that much about scaling. I knew that this business would only work if it could be highly automated, because I wouldn't be able to charge very much as a fee for the product. So I focused a lot on making sure this would be scalable from day one. It turns out that was a huge waste of time because I couldn't even scale to a few customers. There's a phrase I heard probably from somebody at Y Combinator, and it's that I've never seen a startup fail because it couldn't scale fast enough. Looking back on all this, I have to say it's been pretty painful. seeing all of the work that I did that led nowhere, it's also clear to me that I didn't have to give up. I could have kept trying to sell this, and I'm sure that I could have signed up a few vendors with the free tier of this product and printed these off for them and actually got my vision into the real world. It does hurt a little bit that I didn't push a bit harder in order to do that. It makes me want to try right now. There's a few things that hold me back from this. For one thing, just looking at that old source code, I've forgotten a lot of how this stuff works. It reminds me of when I finished my master's project and I told my advisor, well, maybe in a couple of years, if I'm not enjoying the workforce, then I could come back and do my PhD then. And he said, well, Alex, a couple years, all the equations, they just start to go. And at the time I thought, no, I've put so much of my life into this. I'm not going to forget these equations. I won't forget how this works. But of course, he was completely right. And this is much the same. I could pick it back up, but there would be some time to sort of get rolling on this again. So I would have to recommit to making an investment of my time if I wanted to even just get back to the right point to start working on this again. More importantly, though, than that, my fire is gone. Whenever you have a new idea, it's like lightning and there's all this energy, and you've got to capitalize on that energy and build momentum and use that momentum because it doesn't last forever. Inspiration is not a renewable resource, let's say. I'm not feeling very driven to keep pushing at this. And then at the same time, there's other projects which are calling to me. In fact, just talking to vendors over the summer at the farmers market, I've come up with other ideas, other opportunities that I'd rather test than this one. So lastly, how can I think about framing my failure in a way that sets me up for success in the future and also kind of pay some respect to this whole experience that I went through? Instead of seeing this as like a negative drawback or waste of time in my life, I think I can really reframe this as a powerful experience that I learned from, and I can use it to set myself up for future success. I learned the front-end framework of Vue and a lot of JavaScript. I also learned Firebase. That's a Google product that I use to spin up my web app and get this thing into production. In addition to these technologies, I learned what not to do. And that was a lot of what I've been talking about in this video. Also looking back, I can see some things that I did really well. I like my landing page. I like my value proposition. Even though it didn't work out in the real world, I see that as a product failure or like a product market fit problem. But I like that I had a solid business idea that I thought would eventually scale to get me to the place I wanted. What I'm saying here is that I think having the vision of the final thing is really important. Lastly, looking back, I'm really proud of myself for actually completing it. I shipped this product. I printed it in real life and showed it to real people. I handed this over to people and asked them to pay me money for it. And that was really hard for me. So I'm proud of myself for doing it. I think everything we do in our life, when we finish it to completion, when we ship it, we get better. And the next time we build something and when we ship that thing, we'll get better and we keep getting better at it. So I know that following this through from the start to the end made me stronger for the next one. I appreciate your time going on this journey of reflection with me about this product that I brought to market, trying to sell digital labels to farmers market vendors. What things have you built and what lessons did you learn from them? I'd love to hear about your successes and especially about your failures. Although it's been hard and painful like I described, I think it was really valuable for me to reflect on this experience and honor this time that I invested into this failing venture. I'm really excited though for what I have lined up next, and hopefully I'll be able to share that with you on this YouTube channel. I'm Alex. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.